A lot is going on in the world, so it's always good to be out talking about what's going on in the world and what's happening around the country and the world. And of course, yesterday I had the pleasure of going to an amazing event and seeing Representative Clyburn and hearing what he was talking about, including the notion that the Project 25 is nothing new. That's something that has been going on in terms of strategy from different people for a number of years. So he was talking about that, and he was sharing his thoughts around that and along those lines. So that's definitely something that was folks were talking about. I was also hearing in the news that President Trump is thinking about not joining or keeping us in NATO. So that is something that is definitely in the news as well. So a lot of people have been talking about this notion about us leaving NATO and what impact that would have, if any, as well. So definitely that's something that was in the news that I was hearing also. So that's definitely something that people are talking about, is this notion of us leaving NATO and whether that's something that we should be doing or not doing, and all along those lines. So that's definitely something that is in the news front and that folks are talking about as well. And definitely looks like a clear sky for Artemis 2 to launch, which is today as well. So folks are definitely talking about that and the impact of the takeoff of Artemis and all along those lines. So that is something that folks are definitely paying attention to in terms of news coverage and what folks are thinking about that and all along those lines. So definitely lots going on in that space, and we'll be hearing more about that and all in that kind of way. So definitely that's something that folks are going to be paying attention to and seeing what they've got to say about that also. So there's a number of things happening in the news, and of course I'll be waiting for Sasha Starr and Rick and others to be joining me here as we talk about a number of things. Trump tells aides he's willing to end the war without reopening Hormuz. Markets rally and oil prices fall as Trump prepares to address the nation on Iran war. Trump says Iran's president asked for a ceasefire, but U.S. wants Hormuz Strait opened first. So Trump is claiming that Iran's president wants a ceasefire ahead of his address to Americans. So he's supposed to be making an address today, and we'll see how that goes as well. I also saw an interesting video with him waving a sword around, and all along those lines, I think it was at a military event or something in that space. But it was definitely kind of scary seeing him wave that sword around and even doing that crazy dance that he does as well. So I did see that online earlier as well. Hungary's unfair election, why Viktor Orban is so hard to beat. Hungary's election polls show opposition Tisza widening lead over Orban's Fidesz. And in Hungary, the first post-reality political campaign. So people are talking about that as well in that part of the world, even though people are asking who is Peter Magyar, Viktor Orban's nemesis. And Haggard dog lost in a wild New Zealand forest, rescued by helicopter after having some strangers come by and help folks as well. So Molly, the border collie, was rescued after a week waiting for injured owner in New Zealand's remote back country. Lost dog reunited with owner 1 week after she fell down a waterfall. Uh, and strangers funded the search and everything like that. UAE is preparing to join U.S. allies to open the Strait of Hormuz. UAE officials say the report the country is seeking military action to reopen Hormuz is misleading. So Bahrain circulates a revised UN Hormuz draft, drops binding enforcement, and after Saudi and UAE willing to put boots on the ground to force open Hormuz is what a report is saying, and all along those lines. So we'll see what goes on in that space. Starmer says he will push for a closer partnership with EU after Iran war highlights global volatility. So UK will seek closer ties with EU in light of the Iran war, Starmer is saying. So Reeves very happy to see North Sea drilling is what other folks are saying as well. And at least 29 are dead after a Russian military plane crashes in the Crimea. So Russian military plane crashes in Crimea, killing 29 people. So that's definitely something going on in occupied Crimea and all in that space. And Shelley Kittleson, American freelance journalist, abducted in Baghdad. U.S. and Iraqi officials say kidnapped journalists had been warned of threats. So American journalist Shelley Kittleson was kidnapped in Baghdad. And definitely that's something that folks are paying attention to as we're in day 32 of the Middle East conflict. An Australian leader urges using public transport, says war effect will last months. So Trump says Iran asked for a ceasefire, and Albanese urges Australians to remain calm amid their fuel crisis as well. And are we facing a food crisis? So definitely some people are saying how the Iran war could shatter global food security, and U.S. farmers are absorbing rising costs. So food inflation is hard to digest for central banks, is what Reuters is reporting. And speaking of food assistance was slashed for hundreds of thousands of Rohingya refugees trapped in Bangladesh camps. And we've talked about this before, but Israel has passed a law allowing death penalty for convicted Palestinians. And Trump is saying countries must go get your own oil from the Strait of Hormuz. And I think we reported on that as well. So we'll see what folks have to say about that story and how it is playing out also. So, like I said, a lot's going on in the world. And of course, a lot of things are happening at the U.S. Trump suggests he will attend birthright citizenship arguments at Supreme Court. So if Trump attends oral arguments, it would be a presidential first. So definitely what's at risk if SCOTUS sides with Trump in birthright citizenship case and all in that space. We're going to see if he appears in front of the Supreme Court or is in the hearings. I think this might be the first time that somebody comes to such an event and all along those lines. So we'll see how this plays out. And markets rally, oil prices fall as Trump prepares to address the nation on the Iran war. And suspension lifted for helicopter pilot who hovered near Kid Rock's home. Hedges reverses Army suspension of aircrew who flew helicopter near Kid Rock's home. And U.S. Army pilot who flew near Kid Rock's home had been suspended and then reinstated within hours. And Donald Trump is calling NATO a paper tiger. Trump says U.S. could be done with the Iran war within 2 to 3 weeks. And Trump says, of course, like I said earlier, that Europe is on its own and says he's considering pulling the U.S. out of what he's calling the paper tiger, NATO. And the White House ballroom construction has been halted by a federal judge. So, bomb shelters and a drone proof roof. Trump seeks to justify the ballroom as a security measure and everything like that. But right now, the judge has ruled that the White House ballroom construction has to stop. Trump justifies building the White House ballroom as a security matter. So we'll see if this plays out and whether the construction continues or what goes on in that space. And Johnson digs in after GOP resistance torpedoes DHS funding deal. So backdoor funding of Homeland Security Agency could weaken Congress anew. So definitely that's something going there. And Trump signs an executive order targeting mail-in voting. So Trump signs order seeking federal control of mail voting as he promotes a false claim. Washington Secretary of State Steve Hobbs blasted Trump executive order on voter list. And Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer have knocked Trump mail-in voting order unlawful power grab is what they're saying. So we'll see how this all plays as well. And Kathy Hochul is spending political capital in her affordability fight. So Governor Hochul and the lawmakers will be missing the New York budget deadline yet again. So we'll hear how this goes. And some people are asking, will the $4 gas hurt Trump's approval ratings? Trump barrels ahead as approval drops and midterm fears grow. So we'll see how all this plays as well. And Supreme Court rules against Colorado's conversion therapy ban. So Supreme Court backs a challenge to the conversion therapy ban, and they're rejecting the Colorado law banning conversion therapy for LGBTQ minors. So we'll see how this plays on. So Kagan turns on liberal ally Jackson with a footnote jab over free speech. So we'll see how this all plays out, because some people are saying what the Supreme Court's ruling on conversion therapy means for the Minnesota ban as well. So, like I said, lots going on. I'm going to bring in Rick, tell him that I had the pleasure yesterday of meeting a political hero, because he's been a hero to the Democrats and everything like that. I've met G.K. Butterfield a couple of times, who was a former or maybe he's still in, but he's definitely been in Congress for years, but one of the House whips, and he's been a political advocate for a lot of people. And some people even say he helped Biden win by helping him win South Carolina. But James Clyburn was in my Cultural Arts Center, so I had the pleasure of meeting Mr. Clyburn and hearing him talk about the first 8, which were the 8 Black congressmen that were in Congress during the Reconstruction and everything, because he is the ninth and everything like that. So you're talking about some of their history in his latest book. So it was at a book signing event that was at the Cultural Arts Center that I work at and everything like that. He also talked about how Project 25 isn't anything new, that some of the strategies that are being used now were used back by folks in that era as well. So it was an interesting talk, and I put a couple of those on my Instagram posts and a couple on my TikTok, and there might be some others that appear on there later as well. But definitely would.
In a way, we're still in Reconstruction because Abraham Lincoln gets shot in the head, and shortly thereafter, Reconstruction fell apart with incomplete. And so, there's still a lot of hinky stuff and some
still a lot of hinky stuff, like you said. And he even talked about that. He talked about how, as he put it, Booth lost his mind over some of the things around the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment, which is part of the reason that Booth assassinated Lincoln and everything like that. He also talked about this other gentleman that was even more of an orator than Frederick Douglass, and he wasn't knocking Frederick Douglass. He was just saying that there was another guy that was one of those South Carolina senators who was an equal orator and had a deep amount of influence on Lincoln and everything like that. Robert something, I can't think of his last name right off the top of my head.
So Germany, after World War II, it got entirely reconstructed. For one thing, it was bombed to the ground. 80% of dwellings in Germany were destroyed. But the Allies stayed in Germany for 5 years to make sure that Nazism stayed tamped down and to help rebuild Germany. And now Germany is one of the most successful, nicest, I would say, nations in the frickin' world. And so if we had been able to do a similar thing in the South, we'd have fewer problems today.
Yeah, we would definitely have fewer problems today and everything like that. So I'm glad Jacoby joined us as well. Jacoby wasn't there, even though he might be at that center doing some other things later on. But it was definitely good seeing a lot of the political leaders like Representative Fouché and Courtney Crowder and Anita Earls, who was a judge at the center, and definitely they were there to get all this wisdom from Clyburn and G.K. Butterfield. I was just wondering, because this is another story that I didn't get to, but a lot of places are into light rail and everything like that. And apparently in Seattle, a man was allegedly pushed in front of a Seattle light rail train and everything like that. And I remember hearing about that even with the New York subways and everything like that. So I just wonder, because even walking across bridges of highways, I sometimes get nervous because, one can never tell when a wind or something might blow you the wrong way and everything like that. So I just wonder, do y'all ever, when you're out and about, have concerns about some of these places that are very crowded and you never know what people's intentions might be?
Yeah, because it doesn't take much. The train comes whipping in. I mean, in LA, I don't use the subway, but in London, they've started the newer stations are push proof. That they put up plexiglass walls between you and the train, and when the train pulls in, doors in the plexiglass open and you walk through. In between, you can't be pushed onto the tracks.
And by the way, it looks like Trump is losing some battles. I was wondering y'all's take on that. I mentioned one of the battles he lost, and now I'm seeing another one where the federal judge has ruled that Trump's order on NPR and PBS funding is unconstitutional. So the judge has blocked Trump's order to end funding for NPR and PBS.
He's got another thing he's going to lose, which is he just did an executive order to block or to curtail mail-in voting. Against them, that goes against the plain language of the Constitution. The elections belong to the states. So he's going to get sued and he's going to lose.
Yeah, he's definitely going to lose in that. But he's also talking about us pulling out of NATO. I don't know if y'all saw the video that I alluded to earlier. I don't think you were on yet, Rick, and I know Jacoby wasn't. But I was watching some video where he was waving a sword around. It looked like it was some sort of military thing. And then he did that strange dance that he does as well and everything like that. So I don't know, because people online were definitely getting on his case for definitely, as the folks on international side of the world or other parts of other countries say, looking silly, for lack of a better term. And everything.
Well, so he's got a national debate, a national speech tonight. He's going to interrupt prime time TV to make a speech.
Right.
And lately, he's been more nonsensical than before. We'll see if he can get his shit together to make an actual speech or whether he's going to just veer off into nonsense.
Well, and apparently he's doing some other crazy building. We know that he got blocked on the White House ballroom, but now he's unveiling a skyscraper library plan for Miami.
A
So apparently
hotel.
he wants his future presidential library, which he says may be a hotel, to be also a skyscraper, because that's where he wants his presidential library to be. So he's got this gaudy presidential library and already is sparking ridicule.
So Trump ran for president because he was pissed at Obama, right? Obama put up Obama's presidential library, I think, opens later this year, I think, in Chicago. And it is kind of a skyscraper. It's a roughly football shaped, giant towering building. I don't know, 12 stories or more tall. And that, in Trump's mind, Obama's library can't be better than Trump's library. So Trump wants to put up a skyscraper hotel for his library.
That's just crazy and everything like that. And some people are saying that King Charles' state visit to U.S. is going to be humiliation amid the Iran war, because later on this month, King Charles will visit U.S. and meet Trump and address Congress. So he's going to be visiting U.S. as tensions are rising between Trump and Britain. Like I said, he's calling NATO a paper tiger and talking about pulling us out. I know he pulled us out of a couple of environmental groups as well, but now he's talking about pulling us out of NATO altogether. So what's our take on this notion of Trump pulling us out of NATO?
I hope he doesn't. And, when he's gone, well, if he does, we'll have to rejoin. We'll have to go around. It's like when you're married to an alcoholic a-hole, that you lose all your friends. And then when you get separated and divorced, then you have to repair all your friend relationships.
Yeah, you just have to do that and everything like that. He's just coming up with all kinds of ideas, because apparently he's also planning to move Forest Service headquarters to Utah and shutter those research sites. I think that's the ones that are in Colorado that you've talked about before and everything like that. But he's going to move Forest Service headquarters to Utah now for some reason.
Because Colorado is a fairly bluish state, and he wants to punish the blue states.
Yeah, and Utah is definitely more of a red state and everything.
So, Utah might be red, but there's a certain amount of resistance to MAGA in Utah. They have their own thing they're Mormons, and Mormons are nice people. They have issues around stuff, the way that, they've got, they were kind of late to welcome, people who aren't white into Mormonism. And,
yes.
And, they've had issues with women, but they really kind of, they do try, and their leadership is always like 90 years old. They have elders who are literally elders. They're really old, but they're conscientious in a lot of ways. I've known Mormons and ex-Mormons, and they're generally nice people, which means they look at things morally and don't love everything that MAGA stands for.
Yeah, they definitely don't love everything that MAGA stands for. And like I said, they seem to be relatively nice people. I mean, they're kind of like the Seventh-day Adventists, and I guess to some degree the JWs, because I do know that every once in a while, even on mass transit and other times, they will come knocking on your door. So they definitely are trying to recruit people into their religion. I mean, they're not the only ones. Even some of the Christian groups will come knocking on your door, inviting you to their churches and everything like that. But yeah, they are known for definitely coming into people's homes and trying to recruit them and all along those lines. So that is one thing that I know Mormons are known for, because I think they have to serve a certain amount of time in these kind of like missionary.
Yeah, you got to go out on the road 2 years door knocking, right, to bring the good word of Mormonism to people. That's the Book of Mormon, which is the musical by the South Park guys, is all about that.
Right, about them knocking on the doors and everything like that. They're also saying that Medicaid cuts could threaten hundreds of hospitals. So what's your take on that? I know you've got some relatives that are in the medical field and everything like that. So do we need to be concerned about our hospital and our medical care and everything like that, because they're definitely saying that these cuts could hurt a number of hospitals, hundreds of them. And as loudly predicted, Trump GOP Medicaid cuts are decimating hospitals across the area. But I just wanted your take as one that has both friends and relatives in that field.
I mean, we already knew that it was going to affect hospitals. We brought that up when they passed that big, beautiful bill. That's what it was cutting. Even before, when Trump suggested it, months before. I mean, we already knew it was going to affect hospitals and it was going to close hospitals. So this is another "I told you so" moment.
Yep, there's been a lot of those and everything like that. And
can we talk about boobs, giant boobs?
Sure, go for it.
Kristi Noem has been having an affair with her assistant, Corey Lewandowski, for years, blatantly, and which has led to curiosity about how her husband puts up with it. And yesterday, perhaps as part of a feud between Kristi Noem and Stephen Miller, somebody leaked, or somehow a British newspaper got a hold of pictures of Kristi Noem's husband with big fake breasts. This guy is part of the big boob lover community, apparently. So there are women who take their fake boobs to insane sizes. Like, instead of like getting 40 double D cups, they will get 74. They'll get, boobs bigger than basketballs, big, just, insane fake boobs. And to show his support for this community, Kristi Noem's husband would like send out pictures, I guess, to his big boob friends of him wearing a tight t-shirt stuffed with, something to give him enormous boobs and big pointy nipples. And these pictures came out yesterday, and it's humiliating for everybody involved. And people have been saying that there's a whole New York Times article about how, where they're from, South Dakota, everybody thinks the husband is a nice guy, and they're sad for him that he got caught turning, he's a cuckold in this relationship, and that he turned to this big boob stuff in his marital despair.
Rick, that might be something in South Dakota, because way back when I was in college, I dated a young lady that was from South Dakota. It was like one of them winter flings and everything like that. And that's the one thing I remember about that particular young lady, was she was definitely in that particular club and everything along those lines. So she was definitely.
So, and people have been saying, he's not Kristi Noem. He's not involved with all her bullshit, and we should respect his privacy, and it's just a private kink. And I buy that point of view until freaking Kristi Noem's team said, we are shocked, we're horrified, and please give us your prayers at this time, that we're supposed to pray for Kristi Noem during this time, which I find incredibly bullshitty, because where were her prayers for the people murdered by ICE under her watch? She had no prayers for them. Instead, she immediately labeled them domestic terrorists.
Yeah, she called them domestic terrorists and everything like that. But yeah, that's something that was in that space. And the other thing I know about South Dakota, there's a lot of rodeo people there. I know we've had the young lady, I think she's from North Dakota or Wyoming. I think she's from Wyoming. It's a member of MAGA and everything along those lines has been on our show. And she talks about the rodeo. Like I said, the young lady I was just referring to, that's her ex-boyfriend, then current boyfriend, when we were in school. I think they got married and everything like that. He was into the whole rodeo culture and everything like that.
Rodeo it's a brutal way to either earn a living or even to have as a hobby, because you need a lot of equipment. You need a horse, you need a trailer, and to go from rodeo to rodeo often means you're driving 600, 1,000 miles. And I believe that rodeo athletes break more bones on average than any other sport, because it's the only sport where you're basically wrestling with other creatures that weigh between 1,000 and 2,000 pounds.
Yeah, they break a lot of bones. I think the only other sport that might be equally as bad is auto racing, and whether it's NASCAR or Indy 500. And I want to say that the great Daredevil, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't they say that Evel Knievel broke just about every bone in his body at one point or another? I thought that I'd heard that at one point or another he had broken every bone in his body and everything like that.
Yeah, but at least in car racing, if things go well, you don't crash. In bull riding, every freaking bull ride ends with you jumping off the bull and hauling ass away from the bull before it can step on you.
So it can step on you and maul you and everything like that. Charlie Kirk is back in the news, and this is actually an interesting story, speaking of past news stories and everything like that. But apparently the ADF report is unable to link the bullet to the rifle in Charlie Kirk's case. So Charlie Kirk bullet analysis finds no conclusive
That's according to
link
the
to rifle found near the scene. So the accused assassin's lawyers are questioning the link between the bullet from the autopsy and
that's what we're hearing from his lawyers. I don't know what we're hearing from the prosecution.
Yeah, I'm not sure either, but it says lawyers for Tyler Robinson, the man accused of killing Charlie Kirk, are asking to delay the preliminary hearing, and that was as of yesterday. So the case is apparently going on, and we'll see what the results are in that particular case and all in that space. Are we hearing as much? Because I know we used to have people that were involved with them here on the network, particularly from Australia and other places. But you follow, I mean, you're on social media as much, well, probably much more than I am, but definitely you're on there. Do you hear as much about Turning Point as there used to be? Because I don't know that I hear as much about Turning Point. But then again, I'm not always on news sites except for when I'm here on this network and everything.
I don't know. I mean, Erica Kirk, his widow, she gets a lot of, she gets a lot of support, but also a lot of criticism because of her beauty pageant vibe. She's a former beauty pageant contestant, and she comes off with a very theatrical kind of presentation where she's always done up and her emotions are very presentational. And there are some people who are inclined to be annoyed by Turning Point anyway. And then Erica Kirk comes out and celebrates Charlie Kirk's life with fireworks, and she wears like glittery shit. And people, some people question her sincerity. So, I mean, there is stuff going on. There's a comedian, I forget his name, but he dressed up in whiteface as Erica Kirk and did a whole video of her. He's not a small man, so he did a really fat whiteface Erica Kirk, and some people found it on point, and of course other people are horrified and
horrified by it and everything like that. I mentioned it earlier, and I was curious both of your thoughts around this, because apparently this will be the first time it's ever happened. But then again, Trump's had a lot of firsts and everything like that. But what is our thoughts about Trump actually attending the birthright citizenship arguments at the Supreme Court? Because he's thinking about attending, and they're saying that would be a presidential first. So I'm guessing it's the first time that it's a president would have
before you get to that part of it, you got to talk about him wanting to take away birthright citizenship, which is despicable. It's such racist bullshit. He wants to take away, if you're born in America, for the whole history of America, you are an American citizen. And it's been that way for 250 years since we've been a country. And he wants to take that away. And that is some horrible crap, especially at a time when we do have room for immigrants. It's not like we're being flooded with them. 120 years ago, 16% of the U.S. population was not native born. Today, it's about 17%. It's not like we're being overwhelmed with frickin' immigrants, and our population growth is the lowest it's ever been, less than 0.5% a year. and it would be negative. Our population would be shrinking if it weren't for immigration. So we have room for immigrants. And for him to pull shit like this is just straight up racism and hate.
No doubt about that and everything like that. When did Bruce Springsteen become such a political figure and everything like that? Because I know he wrote that song War and everything like that, or he's on tour with War and everything like that. But I was just wondering, that's the song, I think, title, because there's a group called War back in the day as well. But he sang Trump as
He's
a
always
rich man.
been political.
Okay,
Born in the USA is a political song.
that's true.
It sounds patriotic, but if you look at the lyrics, it's a diss to some of the shit. I think, isn't Born in the USA about how we treated Vietnam vets like crap?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's part of what the theme of Born in America was. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, can we talk about gas for half a second? Gas is
Please, and gas is like $4 and going up.
now $4.06, which means the gas is now more expensive than during 43 out of 48 of the 48 months that Biden was president. When Biden was president, gas was under $4 a gallon for 43 months. It was over $4 a gallon for 4 months, and it hit $5 a gallon 1 month. So it's not like, Biden was we had some inflation, but then Biden got inflation under control. So we'll see how many months we have $4 gas under Trump.
Yeah, we'll see that and everything along those lines. It'll be interesting to see how that goes. Go ahead.
So just a couple of things with the birthright citizenship. The only reason why he's going into there is to try and intimidate the justices. This is an authoritarian play. Mm-hmm. All the lower courts had already agreed that birthright citizenship is a thing. They've thrown out the case. This is Trump trying to force this case through by him attending it. He's actually attending it. It's going on right now. That's what I got in the background in terms of listening to what's the justices and Trump's lawyers.
How's it going for him if you're listening?
You said he is actually there?
Yeah, he's there. That was his whole point. He's trying to push this through. The only reason he's trying to push this through is anybody with melanin on their skin is now going to be looked at even more that, hey, are you really a citizen? That's the whole point of this. That has been the whole point of Stephen Miller and Trump's push on this whole immigration push. That's why he's going after these individuals. That's why these individuals are on the news. That's why these individuals they're doing videos of them. That's why Dr. Phil is doing the videos of them. That's the whole point. So yeah, he's going to this first time. Well, second time. The first time was in 75 when they were presenting justice. Now this is the first time going to sit through the whole court case. That's the whole reason why he's there. He's not.
Can you tell how it's going? Sometimes you can tell by the questions the justice.
I mean, they're pushing back on him. They're pushing back on him from the way it sounds. It's a very long shot that he would win, especially because I think the 13 courts that he's taken it to before have all pushed back on him and voted against Trump. So it would be kind of odd for the Supreme Court to go against the other 13 courts that have already agreed that the 14th Amendment is solid the way that it is. So again, that's the only reason why Trump is there, is to make this long shot and use his intimidation to hopefully intimidate the judges so they'll vote for him. That's the only reason why he's there.
If you had to put money on how many justices go one way or the other, where would your money be? 7-2?
My guess is that it'll go probably 7-2 on the split, because the two that are going to vote for him.
Yeah, Thomas
and who's the other guy?
Alito. They'll always vote for Trump.
Yeah, I was just listening to him because apparently they're doing oral arguments right now.
Yeah,
and the Donald is there listening to this birthright citizenship deal, and the problem that the court is hammering on is deal with the parent's domicile. In other words, how do you determine that? Which parent is it? The mother or the father? In other words, a lot of this stuff is, not clear. What's really clear, though, is if somebody's in the contiguous United States, they get born here, they're a citizen. However, there's an exemption. Believe it or not, there's an exemption relating to if you're a diplomat. Okay, so if you're a diplomat over here and your kid is born here, you're not considered a citizen. I didn't hear any of the oral argument people trying to expand that or use that, saying, well, we want to exclude certain people from being citizens, especially if they come to the United States illegally to have a kid and make the kid legal. But I think it's a tough case because the other way is just frankly pretty clear. In other words, if you're born in the United States, you're a citizen. It's kind of been that way for hundreds of years, with very few exceptions. There's a diplomatic.
Now there is some abuse to the system. Like it's known that like rich Chinese people will take a trip. So not now, and I've looked up the statistics for this. But if you're rich and you're from China, it's been known for a 9-month pregnant Chinese lady to come to the U.S. and give birth here, so her kid can have dual citizenship. But I looked up the statistics. So out of 3.6 million total yearly births, the estimates for birth tourism range from 2,000 to 20,000. So, some people game the system that way. It's not a significant number of people. And, they have the kid. Then after a couple months or when the baby's ready to travel, they go back to China. Then when it comes time for the kid to go to college, then the kid comes back.
He can apply as a U.S. citizen.
Yeah,
I got it. And he can get a U.S. passport, et cetera. I don't think they're worried about the rich Chinese coming over and having kids. They're worried about the poor people from Mexico. And I say from Mexico because a lot of them are not Mexicans, but basically the poor people from Central and Latin America coming across the border illegally and then having a kid. I think that's what they're concerned about.
Yeah.
Rick, it is a very small demographic. And frankly, it's really difficult to trace. Look, you can't even trace the illegals that are here. How are you going to trace ones that are having kids at a hospital? I mean, this is a little over the OTT, over the top.
Yeah, we have a year's worth of statistics on Trump deporting the worst of the worst. And because Trump said he'd get all the bad hombres out of here with ICE. Well, it turns out that the worst of the worst are only 14% of the people rounded up by ICE, people with a criminal record. And the deal is, and we know this, and common sense tells you that, some bad guys come in illegally. But for the most part, immigrants are excellent people. They're strivers. Even the name Dreamer, it's like they come to the U.S. to build a better life. They are interested in most immigrants are interested in hunkering down, working their asses off.
Yeah. Well, I just think that he's got another problem in the case. I don't know where it's going to go. Is this a executive function or a legislative function when it comes to immigration law? I mean, if you think about it, it looks like the law he's trying to pass through an executive order should be passed by Congress. They're the ones who are supposed to legislate, not.
But then isn't Congress supposed to have legislated this conflict we're in, or this war that we're in as well? And we haven't really heard Congress approve or not approve of what we're now in day 32 of and everything like that. So I thought that was supposed to be a congressional.
They brought an action. See the Democrats in their infinite wisdom, and it is infinite, but I don't know if it's wisdom, brought an action to declare the war illegal and got it tossed in Congress. So, it almost like that Congress is giving the Donald a carte blanche to do the not war, but as we know, to resolve conflicts or basically be the head of the military, which is what he's doing. He's being the head of the military. Remember, you elected him. He's the head of your military, so you got what you wanted. And we'll just have to see where it goes. Where is it going to go from here? Or as Larry used to say, what are you going to do? And I don't know what they're going to do. I don't know if they
will find out. He'll have to say some words tonight when he gives a national speech.
Yeah, but words don't win wars. What wins wars is doing things that Jacoby doesn't like, and that's killing lots of people. That wins wars. Historically,
that actually doesn't win wars.
Okay, you know, I mean, if you want to win a war, you have to impose death on your enemy, and that's just the way it is.
That's actually how wars are lost. That's not how wars are won.
Yeah, right. That's how the U.S. lost the war in the Second World War. Is they opened up the floodgates for the Nazis.
Here's a question for you, then,
Jews. Come on.
Were there treaties and diplomacy done at the end of the war?
Treaties? Oh, of course. You always do treaties and diplomacy.
So when do we get to that point in this? Because
when they surrender, which isn't going to happen tomorrow.
So then what you're saying is then there's no end to the war, because what you end up doing, what you end up doing when you do this whole, hey, we're going to kill everybody, you create more enemies.
A lot of people.
You create more enemies, create more you create more terrorism across the world that begins to attack us. So it doesn't win a war. It doesn't do anything. You've got to end. The only way to end a war is through diplomacy. And if
that's your opinion, if
you cannot get to that point, then you're not going to end the war. All you're going to do is continue down the path of having an endless war.
Toby, that's your liberal opinion, and it's not.
What brought the end of the Iraq War?
I don't know if you remember in World War II.
What brought the end of the Afghanistan War?
2 atomic bombs that wiped out 100,000.
What brought the end of the Afghanistan War?
You see the Japanese decide.
What brought the end of the Afghanistan War? What brought the end to the Afghanistan War?
Did you see the Japanese?
What brought the end to the Afghanistan War?
No, you didn't.
What brought the end to the war in Afghanistan? What brought the end to the war in Afghanistan?
Well, what brought it was the incompetent Democrats.
What brought the end to the war in Afghanistan?
The Democrats did.
What brought the end to the war in Afghanistan?
It was the
what
biggest
brought the end to
reason
the war in
not to vote for the
Afghanistan?
Democrats.
If you read history, you're going to learn that there were different things that brought the end of different wars, and different kings and different delegates and different whatever. I think it's a difference of the times, the difference of the people in charge, the power. I mean, you know, we're told stories, whether they're true or not, but you know, you take down the king, you take control of the country. You know, some people thought this king was creating slavery and doing bad things until they got the next king. So I think it's a matter of people forget there are more of us than them. And if they're not doing an overall good job for us, but they're charging us and they're dividing us, then it's up to us to change it. It's up to the people. You know what? Millions of our young men are going to war. For who? For Trump. This isn't our war. This is not our war. And you know what irritates the bejesus out of me is walking through the Senate halls and walking through the Congress halls, and on every Republican door that I could find, almost many of them anyway, I will say everyone who had this sign was a Republican, is I'm for Israel. Now, if you walk past a Democrat door, the sign would say I'm for the people, you know, people over policy, you know, people over politics. So the Democrats' message is we're here for the people. But the Republican message, and this is why that's all divided, is the Republicans' message is as a Republican, they are there for Israel. And the signs are there. They're there for Charlie Cook. They're there for Israel. And that is disturbing to me. Why not have no signs? I'm here for the people of the United States. I am not here for another country. Okay. And that's the difference when you walk down the center. You know, Nick, come join me. This is your homeland.
Actually, Steve has joined us, and he's more of a professional. In
Well,
politics
Steve should
than I
walk
am.
down the halls with me because I took
He-
pictures. I've
He
got
is,
a
he is
whole.
walking down the halls of DC. Steve,
I
how you
got
doing?
pictures of all the doors, and I was shocked that the
We have to
Republicans
see
are
those
posting "I'm
pictures
for
on-
Israel," and the Democrats are posting.
Put the pictures
but
up
you
so we
have to
can
look
all
at
share
it.
and see them. I like pictures, so let's.
I
put the
did.
pictures
They're
up.
posted. They're posted.
Oh, but I mean on this thing here, the World Edition.
I will.
People like
They're here.
you know. Yeah.
But the thing is, but it was disappointing because by the time I realized I should take photos of this, we had already done a whole building and into a half a building. So I decided just to start taking pictures then because, you know, in a day in one building we did 4,400 steps.
Yeah.
So for the step counter, that's just for the step. That's
Was that
just
the
in one
Russell
building.
building?
That's not the next building that we
That's
went
after this
into.
building y'all went to. Hold on a second, Kim, because Steve's not been with us for a while, so I'm curious to see what
Hi,
he's got
Steve.
on his mind and all along those lines, because it's been a minute since we've seen Steve. He's been out there. He was campaigning and not had success in what he was campaigning for, but he's got other things going on, including, I understand, being a tennis coach and everything like that. So, Steve, how are you doing and what's going on in your life and what are you finding out? I know that you were having some times of needing to regroup and refresh yourself, as they like to say, and everything like that. So tell me how you're doing and what's going on in your world.
Well, I just work. Yeah, I'm retired officially from politics. So, back into my life. I closed out my committee, and I'm a former council member. Maybe I'll have another day, but I'm going to try to just focus on. I'm back at work, so Kimberly, I wasn't able to go to DC with you. My new boss has got me working hard, so not as much free time. That's why 10 o'clock so is usually a tough time now because we're back in the office. So I just had a quick early lunch break. But yeah, I'm coaching tennis again, and then doing some media. I'll be back on PBS and WPTF.
I saw that.
Maybe starting a new show on AI. And I've been writing a lot on AI, so I'd like to eventually try to start bringing more guests on the show, just on AI and innovation and technology and all the things that are going on. I was at the summit last week at All Things Open AI, and then also the DIT one hosted by the governor and the secretary. But yeah, all is good. I mean, I think really just trying to get caught up on the news. I mean, obviously, the Iran war, everyone talking about that, the midterm elections, what's going to happen there. I think the Democrats are going to sweep the House and the Senate. Birthright citizenship up today in the Supreme Court. That's going to be interesting. So it's really disruption. I mean, I'm just waiting for them to activate the 25th Amendment and put someone else in the White House. But unfortunately, we'd have J.D. Vance. It'd probably be worse. And Andy Bashir is coming here in June. He's going to be running for president. So we're going to do an event for him. Gavin Newsom's running. I rumor that Kamala Harris is going to get in the ring. So I think the Democrats are probably going to have 8 to 9 people on that CNN stage. And then I think Vance is going to select Rubio as the nominee. So they'll probably consolidate. So, it's going to be interesting to see what happens. So I got to get caught up on my international and national news because I've been a little bit out of pocket.
Let me ask you something. While I was in DC, I noticed a certain buzz and everything. And I was actually there for No King's Day and the Kite Festival, which I thought was absolutely beautiful. But having both and the Blossom Festival, it was a bit overwhelming. But the hubbub is Rubio it's almost like Trump kind of wishes he put Rubio as his vice president. What is your thoughts when you see like their body language when he's bringing Rubio in on most of the shows, everything that he's doing, he's bringing Rubio in more. What is your thoughts on that? Because I almost think that he's kind of pushing Rubio.
Well, I think part of it, Kimberly, and it's so good to see you. You look great, by the way. I look forward to seeing you guys in person soon. I think part of it is that when you look over the last few years, Hispanic Americans have been doing much more going Republican. I think the numbers really flipped since even the Obama years. Almost 45 to 52% of Hispanic Americans are now going Republican. So part of it is Rubio's story, a United States senator, son of Cuban immigrants. I think that having a president for vice president. And maybe that's why he's pushing Rubio to lead the ticket, because that could drive that Hispanic number up more. And I think that's part of the play here, right? Rubio's younger. Both of them are young, Vance and Rubio. So, and I think the Democrats' youngest would be Bashir, who's I think 42, 43. Of course, if AOC runs, she's young as well. But I think that's part of it, right? The Hispanic, the demographic, the youth. Now, of course, I think this Iran war, given the fact that Rubio's Secretary of State, may hurt his chances, may blemish him to win a primary, just because I think it's going to all be told of how many casualties, what's the economic fallout of the war in terms of gas prices, rising costs, those kinds of things. So that's my take on it. And it's a disruption, right? And I mean, I tell you, I don't know. I want to give you guys a homework assignment. Go to the newsroom tirade with Jeff Daniels and listen to him. Is America a great country?
I'll certainly do that. Let me ask you this. You're talking about the shift of the Hispanic culture looking more toward Rubio, but do you not think that they see him somewhat of a traitor, and that they deported wrongly a lot of the Hispanic people as well as other people who have been waiting and working hard to become citizens? Do you not think that they're going to be use that against them a little bit?
Well, it's funny that you say that, Kimberly, because I've been doing kind of my own straw poll, talking to Hispanic Americans that I know, they're business owners. And when I ask them that question, what they say is that they support Trump. They support Trump initially because of his support of small businesses, taxes, and those kinds of things. But they also said they really believed that there was an illegal immigration problem. And they didn't believe it was right to allow people to come in the border legally. Now, many of them do not. It might have changed now with the way how cruelly we're treating these immigrants through ICE, right? So maybe they will look at Rubio as a traitor if he's just condoning these ICE tactics. I don't think that's any way of handling him. But when I ask them the question, they say we just do not agree, if we came to this country legally, that we would allow people to come in illegally. And we believe that this president is coming and saying there's a problem. And because he's saying there's a problem, we're supporting him over, Joe Biden or over someone else. So I think that's part of it. I mean, but I do think you have a good point that the cruel treatment, to generalize and say that everyone crossing the border is a rapist or murderer, to make these racist generalizations about someone's color, and let's be honest here, and I'm not saying this as a Democrat or Republican. Do we get mad? Do we attack Norwegian immigrants? Do we attack immigrants that are coming in from Greenland or Iceland? They might not have their paperwork. They may not be here legally. But we're going after the people of color, and then we're making that. And having people with tinted masks and intimidation and fear is not the way for a president of the United States to handle immigration. But Rubio's staying silent because this guy, if you question Trump, he's going to give you walking papers and fire you, just like Celebrity Apprentice.
Yeah,
so you can't say anything.
I wanted to tell you too, while I was walking through the Senate halls and Congress halls, we've kind of revamped our political channel a little bit, and it's been down a wee bit, but we're looking for new content. But I shook hands with a lot of their communications directors, and told them what we were doing, that we're trying to ramp up a new political channel, who we are. We have 4 channels, and they were just so impressed with our work. And I actually had a team of people with me kind of help promoting. And I asked them if we got a show going, because it's, we're going to try to make it as nonpartisan as possible, but would they be willing? And they're like, absolutely. A network that isn't controlled by all of this other stuff. And so, I hope that you keep your time open for maybe doing one show a week with some of the senators that were really on board with this.
Yeah, Kim, just really quickly, because I had something to bring up to Steve just really quickly.
It's really cool.
The same lines and everything like that. On Friday, the day after tomorrow, there will be a young lady, Robin Blackstone, because I know that you're very big into AI. She actually wrote a book, and I mentioned it before. She'll be our guest. She's already approached me and everything like that. But the book is called American Health, Who Gets Paid, and her latest book, that was her old book and everything, is Dr. AI, Reimagining Healthcare, Rebuilding Trust, and Delivering Health 4.0. So she is a New York-based physician and surgeon who is looking at AI and the health industry and everything like that. So I hope that you will make some time on Friday to join us as well, because she'll be our guest on Friday during the day, during this time between 10 and 11 and everything like that. And just a slight sarcasm and everything along those lines. But is it just me, or is, because I don't remember this ever happening before, but is it kind of unique and interesting that Trump is deciding to do his press conference and his talk to America on the eve of April 1st? April 1st is April Fool's Day.
It's just a coincidence, Mark.
I don't think it's a coincidence. I think it's on purpose.
Fool me once, it's April Fool. So I thought he was busy in front of the Supreme Court. But Kim, if you have those cards, you want to reach out to those people, because the only way you get to connect with people in Washington, D.C., my experience, is you have to go to Washington, D.C.
Absolutely, but when you go, I want to explain something. When you go and you get there and you go in the doors, none of the doors are really locked. A few are, but you can just walk in, shake a hand, tell the people who you are and what you're doing, and they'll tell you which card to get, and they have the real contact information, the real phone number, and the real email. Now, there's a difference between the real and the not so real information, and that's the thickness of the card. So always make sure you get the thicker card. Some of them are thin and some of them are thick. So
just really quickly, because I know we're winding down and everything like that, but just really quickly, to your point and everything, they will also come to you, because as I said at the beginning of this network show and everything like that, I had the pleasure of seeing two representatives yesterday at Hayti. Representative Clyburn was doing his book signing tour at Hayti. So Steve, Representative Clyburn of South Carolina, was here in North Carolina over 2 days. So he was at Greensboro, at Raleigh, at I believe that was at the Art Center. Then he was at the Hayti Center yesterday afternoon, and then yesterday evening he was at the Civil Rights Museum in Greensboro. But this is all part of his book signing.
Somebody else has a book coming out. J.D. Vance in June will have a book come out about his spiritual growth, his Christian faith. So 2028 on the Republican side will be a battle of who can show themselves to be the most faithful and Christian, Rubio versus Vance.
Hillbilly too, but the thing is, I like Mark
with
Rubio.
reference to. I want to play the video maybe this week, but it's really a great summation for me when during the HBO Max series, The Newsroom. There's a series where Jeff Daniels is playing a journalist, and he's asked the question, "Is America a great country?" And they go all the way down the row, and people are saying freedom and diversity, and then he says the New York Jets, and then everyone laughs, the students, and then they ask him, "Is America really a great country? We're going to hold you to an answer." And then he shocks everyone. He says, "No, America is not a great country."
Yeah.
And then he goes on to say, it's amazing. He talks about the Star Spangled Banner of freedom. He cites the fact that there's
I love that movie.
Sovereign states, but Australia has freedom, Japan has freedom, Belgium has freedom, Canada has freedom. And
that's my favorite scene.
Yeah, but he goes into sorority girl. He looks at the sorority girl. He goes, before you vote, there's no documented evidence this was America's a country. Then he just rattles off all these statistics about literacy and this. He goes, there's only 3 good things America is good at: incarcerated prisoners. We have more guns than anyone in the world. We have more people that believe that there are angels, and we spend more than defense than any country in the world, and 25 of them are allies. Then there's a pause, and he talks about how we were a great country, where we shot for the stars, we sent man to the moon, we waged wars on poverty, not on poor people. We did all of these things because we didn't worry about what happened in the last election, and we were informed. And to me, it was so telling of the time that we're in, and kind of where we are going as a country. And it's pretty fascinating.
Well, I'm tired of our country supporting other countries, and we need to start supporting ourselves. And the most disappointing thing I did was walk down the halls of Congress and see majority of the Republicans on their wall not say I'm for the American people, but it said I'm for Israel. And I will post this up with you guys as soon as I get it all loaded on my computer. But that's disturbing to me. That's That's a shocking point that I'm spending all my money, sending to my Congress, and they're not for me, they're for Israel. And if you watch the interview with Ted Cruz and Tucker, I think it was Tucker Carlson, and Ted Cruz said his first position, his first everything is for Israel because the Bible tells him so. The Bible tells him that he has to support Israel before he supports Americans. And this is a real, not an AI. This is not AI. And I normally don't watch Tucker, but it was pretty cool to see this come out of them. This little snake spew, I am for Israel.
So one thing that we do have to do, one thing that we have to do is we have to separate the idea, because we've kind of thrown everything to this isolation point that the U.S. has to be isolated. We shouldn't support anybody because we've tied any type of support. We've gotten the idea that if we're supporting anybody, we're supporting Israel. Well, there are other countries out there besides Israel. And the USAID was one of the greatest things that we could have actually put out because it was actually helping other countries, yes, but it was doing things that in helping other countries, it was helping us. So we've got to realize that we have to get a different mindset in terms of everything is not Israel. We have to get back to, we have to be a part of the world and not just, hey, if you support the world, that means you support Israel. No, it's not that. That's a trope we can't fall into.
Something I noticed when I was in DC is it's becoming more of a religious cult.
Yes.
It is becoming this religious cult that we have to support Israel. I know it's money in the background, but it's becoming this religious factor. And it's making
the last thing I'll say, and I got to go, and it's so good seeing everyone. Hopefully, I'll be coming back more frequently and eventually be for the whole hour. But the bottom line is that it's political. I mean, now what's happening is the political parties are driven by the extremes. Okay, so I lost the Democratic primary for commissioner, even though I had 14 years of experience, because the progressives came and took me out. And you're not going to get support even in Wake County, which is kind of stupid, if you're not completely pro-Gaza, pro-Palestinian, and if you have support of the Jewish community, you're going to lose a lot of votes. And that's what happened to me. Now, the funny thing is, but if you're Republican, you got to support Israel, right? So it's really funny because now it's kind of shifting. And so a lot of this is political because I think the pressure to go after Iran is coming from Netanyahu. Trump's son-in-law is Jewish. They want the support of AIPAC because the Jewish money can fund a lot of these politicians. And that's where this is going. And I think if you're the presidential campaign, what's going to be very interesting, and I think it's going to be a litmus test of the Democratic primary, is that someone like Bashir, who's going to be modeling more to the center, I think his greatest challenge is he's going to be challenged by, Kamala Harris, who, by the way, unfortunately, I think she can win the nomination. Because I think being a Democrat and a Black woman, I think it's going to be very hard to beat. I mean, if you look at Wake County, the reason I lost my primary, women outvoted men 3-1 in Wake County. 85% of the vote. So if you were a man running in Wake County right now, if you were a man running in a Wake County primary in Wake, you're not winning the primary.
I disagree that she has a shot. I disagree
to win the nomination.
I disagree.
I don't know. I mean,
the reason I say that is that
I think she'll win.
No, the reason I say that is because of the realities of the situation. People see that the U.S. is not ready for a Black woman. The U.S. as a whole is not ready, honestly, for a woman. So what will happen in the Democrat Party is, yes, a Bashir or somebody else will win that nomination. And that is based on the tactics that even the people within the actual community of the Democrat Party, same thing as the progressives, they are right now want to win. They don't care about it being, hey, we want it to be. Right now, their whole focus is they want to win. So they have already come to terms that they won't have a AOC that'll win. Kamala Harris doesn't have a shot because of her background in the progressives. And that's the reason why she didn't win the nomination when she was actually running for president at that time. And that was only in 2020.
She only had
So-
6 weeks to campaign. Come on, let's
No,
give
no,
her
no,
a
no.
little
I'm
bit
talking about
credit.
2020, not 2024.
Oh, okay.
In 2020,
Well,
she
we can
did
make this
the
tomorrow, Chris. Thank you
primary.
so much. You guys look great. Great to be back.
Oh yeah, and so yeah, I just don't think that right now. I think people just want to, they just want to win. They don't want to. They don't want the whole idea of, hey, the possibility, and then they lose. They're gonna vote for a
They're going to
white
vote
man.
for somebody that they've got a good chance of winning, and all on those lines. We're here to get on out of here, and everything like that. There's another video that I've got to bring, and I was going to bring it to Steve's attention, which is quite interesting, that I saw that was a political video, and then we'll get out of here just as I talk about it. But I'll bring it up to play for him. But there's a video just talking about how, and I did not realize this. I know you're a student of history like me, but apparently in the 1920s there was an Indian gentleman that was actually deported, and they deported a whole bunch of folks because apparently there was a case about whether he was white or not, even though we know India is very brown. So they deported a bunch of people that were gone for about 40 or 60 years. So the comedian was making the point that that's when they moved back to India and developed a lot of these businesses that they are in. And he did it in a joking fashion, talking about gas and meds and some of the other industries that they are very affluent in right now and everything like that.
Just as a breaking news thing, and something that we never even thought about or even talked about, that we should have. And you know, I honestly, it just popped up on my feed, and I should have thought about it, and I think we should have all. Do you know that due to gas prices, we're about to lose Uber, Lyft, other ride share, Instacart? Because what do they depend on? Gas.
They depend on gas, and I did hear that there was some things that even they were trying to do in terms of relief to their people because of the gas prices, but they can only give but so much relief and everything like that. But I did hear that not just today, but I think that was a couple of days ago, and I did mention on one of our past stories, because apparently they're offering those companies some relief. I know definitely Uber and Lyft are, and everything like that, to their drivers. So they're trying to find out ways to help their drivers get through these difficult times, is what I'm trying to say, and everything like that.
But it's not going to happen. We're stuck now.
And that's definitely going to be detrimental to a lot of folks that are getting around, and some even trying to get around to their grocery store and everything like that, because some people are using both services, using Uber or Lyft to get to the grocery store, where they're then using Instacart to buy the food or some of the other discount food things. So yeah, that's going to definitely hurt a lot of our poor folks. And as we also have alluded to on this show before, the fertilizer and the whole food industry is also in jeopardy as well because of this war. So there's a lot of things that are impacted by this war that people are not thinking about. But we'll be talking tomorrow on Thursday about what President Trump says on his speech later on today, as well as what other news is out there breaking. Always good to see you, Toby. I was hoping that I was going to see you at Representative Clyburn's thing, but I don't know if you even knew about it. But it was fun to be there, to see him there at the Hayti, and to see some of the luminaries like Representative Fouché and Zach Hawkins, who's in politics, and a number of other political types as well. But right now, we're going to get on out of here.